What's up, people of the YouTube? Dark One back once again for another Cthulhu's Corner, and this time I'll be addressing the recent, wow, that almost fell over, huh? The recent announcement and what I think about the Xbox One. In case you don't know, that is the next-gen console coming to us from Microsoft. Let me preempt this video by saying, I guess as far as my credibility, I've owned everything, majorly speaking, since NES, and played everything since NES, except for a handful here and there. Like, I didn't have a Neo Geo, like a 3DO, didn't have, like the odds and ends, but the major Nintendo ones, and all that, and Sony, I had PS1, 2, 3, Xbox One, 360, Genesis, I had all the old school stuff, the major old school stuff, and played them all. So, for whatever credibility that grants me as a gamer, whatever, there it is. But everyone else is making these, so why not jump on the everyone sharing their opinion on YouTube bandwagon? Because why not, right? What better place to share what you think is right than right here on the intro net? So, they're calling it Xbox One. I get it. It's part of the. It's kind of weird. It's better than Durango or 720. It sounded pretty good, and I would have been okay with that. But it's Xbox One. I get it. The marketing. It's the one thing you need for entertainment. Now, I'm a big fan, and Mr. Boogie298 made a point. He's like, a lot of us already have a cable box, or already have all this stuff independently already of a 360. Well, the thing it does is you'll be able to plug all that into Xbox One, and then that way it's just kind of a hub. That's kind of cool. Now, Boogie made a point, his particular cable provider may or may not be compatible with it. That's a small thing. And I might reference this more than once in this vid. Honestly, a while back, before the announcement, that random Xbox guy, and I say quotes, I'll explain why, did that tweet of hashtag deal with it. People brought up the always online and the used game thing and all that. And he pretty much was just like, don't know what to tell you. If you don't have internet, we really don't care. There's 1,000,000 to 1 that will buy our system. So you won't. Boo-hoo. We'll still make money. I think they really meant that. They just needed to put it out there in a way. That guy no longer works for Microsoft. He was let go. I think that's something that Microsoft wanted to put out there, and they did, and because it did kind of come true in a way. The system, and that's another thing that kind of cracks me up. I watched the press conference on my 360. And then, immediately after, my friend who's a Sony fanboy is putting all these links to IGN, Kotaku, game trailers, Joystick, every gaming news site there is, with all these details that they didn't mention in the press conference. And I'm not necessarily going to argue the validity of this information. None of it doesn't sound true. But my thing is, like, if you go by what the press conference said, none of this stuff was touched on. Now, like I said, I'm not saying it's not true. More than likely, you will have to have a Kinect plugged into it, because it's been kind of found. I apologize for the lights. It's my TV. It's not just a random strobe in the back. You will have to have a Kinect plugged in. It comes with them. So it's not like you have to buy it separate. I mean, they probably will have a version that doesn't include it, and that'll be stupid, just like they did with this generation and the 4 gig. That's a pretty much useless thing, if you really want to use the system. But whatever. The always on, it's not really, but yes, that is such a redundant point to me. And I might use that word a lot in this, just heads up. Because 360 owners, generally as a whole, let's face it, that console, Microsoft's console, is built around Xbox Live. Should it be free? Shouldn't it be free? Whatever. I don't mind paying. That's the end of the day for me. You get a bit more security, better features, but that's a whole other thing. Like I said, it's redundant to try to, nitpick it and be like, oh, well, it has to always be on. Yes, it is kind of a thing, but like I said, the 360 is built around it, and I know, myself included, and everyone else that I know that plays the 360, their console's connected anyway. They're, it's on Xbox Live every time they turn it on. So, if you're doing it anyway, does it really matter if it's required? I mean, now, a couple articles brought up, well, what about the Army guys? People on Army bases that, don't have internet access or something like that. Yeah, it does suck. But it goes back to, like I said, that infamous tweet. I mean, they're willing to kind of cut their losses because it's such a big company, and they know that another phrase I might use a lot in this, the end justifies the means. They wouldn't do this, and they wouldn't charge for Xbox Live and all this if people didn't buy it. I mean, that's just the gist of it, I compared it earlier to one of my friends to Walmart, Microsoft to Walmart. I mean, I don't think that's a bad comparison. Is a lot of Walmart's business practices right? Or, the right thing to do? Do they treat their employees right? No, not necessarily, and probably not. But the point is, they're on top. They're that name, in retail. They're that company. If a product comes along, they can look at that manufacturer and be like, we want it at this price. And of course the manufacturer's like, what are you, crazy? It costs us twice as much to make it. Well, okay, we won't sell it in our stores. Anywhere in the world. Well, as a manufacturer, what are you going to do? You're going to find a way to give it to them for that price, or miss out on one of the largest markets. So it's kind of relative. It's like, if people didn't buy into Live, they wouldn't do it, because it wouldn't succeed. And the point is, it has, so they do. The Army base thing, yeah, it sucks. I'm going to be a real asshole when I say this, so heads up. But let's face it, if you're off fighting a war and whatnot, I do realize there is some downtime inevitably, but, maybe if you were busy actually fighting and doing what you're supposed to, our wars wouldn't last 12 years. Just saying, if you're doing more than sitting around pretending to playing Call of Duty while you're in active duty, there you go. I mean, I know it's a really asshole thing to say. I'm not saying in the military people don't deserve a break or whatever, but, you're there to do one thing and you're playing video games. But anyway, but I mean, I went into the reveal pretty much sold because I enjoy my Xbox 360. I recently, had a bit of squabble. Had to reset my Live account. Yeah, it sucked, but I did it. I lost 4 years of achievements and game progress, and I don't even want to think how much money in digital content. It sucked, but at the end of the day, it was my own fault. So, write down the password. And I did. So, but I mean, like I said, to try to make a negative point about something that people do all the time anyway, it's not a point. I mean, 98% of anyone that owns a 360 pays for Xbox Live. That's like pretty much a statistical fact. They just go together because, like I said, the console is built around it. So, I mean, to be like, well, it has to always be on, or it has to do this to verify a game. People are going to do it anyway. So it's not really a negative point when people are going to do it anyway. Let's see. Then there's the used game thing. I think a lot of us saw this coming. It's another business thing. I have friends. I have really good friends who work at GameStop, and I fear for how it may affect their business and potentially their job because, yeah, pretty much no used games. You put the disc in, it auto-installs, reads whatever. Then let's say I wanted to lend someone out there in internet land or one of my friends a game. They could put it in their system, it'll read it, and allegedly it'll bring up some kind of prompt like, oh, hey, you want to play this? You gotta pay a little bit of money. Now, that little bit of money could be anywhere from the retail price of the game to $1. But, I mean, it's still, you can't access it. That doesn't bother me either. I don't deal in used games. I mean, I know plenty of people do, but for me, again, it's a redundant point. And I think as a whole, a lot of people don't deal in used games. Because, again, it's one of those things, if they didn't think they could get away with it, they probably wouldn't do it. And also, I mean, let's face it, as far as used game sales go, it completely cuts out developers. The used game market is solely in place to help GameStop make a profit, to help whatever used game store there may be in your area make a profit. Microsoft, the game developers, anybody related, they do not get a cent of that, after it is sold at regular retail the first time. So I get it. I mean, yeah, it's corporations being kind of greedy, but hey, it's their product. The only thing that kind of worries me about is, I got friends, I got a married couple, and they have 2 accounts on one Xbox. And then they actually have a couple extra Xboxes in the house, but the main one has both their accounts on it. I'm just wondering how it could potentially affect them, sort of thing. Like, if one of them is signed on, they put in this game, if it'll pull that nonsense when the other one is signed on. Even though it's the same console, it's a different account trying to recognize it. Because, it ties it to your specific account. So I'm intrigued to that, and that could be kind of bullshitty. But, I mean, it is what it is. Me personally, I don't deal with it, so I don't care. As far as, like I said, it requires Kinect. Meh. I mean, my thing about Kinect now is it's good tech. You can look into it. You can see plenty of vids and other really cool things being done with Kinect. The only people that can't seem to figure out how to program or make stuff for it are the actual game developers. So, there's that. I mean, honestly, if I had needed a new 360 after the Kinect released, I probably would have bought one with it. I mean, it's just a whatever thing. It's there. If I can yell at my Xbox to turn it on, yeah, I'm lazy as shit. That works for me. So, that's, again, a redundant point. It's just something. I mean, it's not like they're like, this system doesn't have a controller, you have to use Kinect. So, if I gotta yell at it to turn it on, big whoop. That's the least worry of my day. And let's face it, some of the snapping and whatever menus were pretty fucking cool. Another big thing they played up is the TV interactivity. I mean, it did pander a lot to sport fans, which I'm not necessarily the biggest one of, but I think it's a lot of cool things that could be implemented in a lot of other ways. So, that's kind of there. the big thing I really got out of it was the processing power. And I'm glad to see you can find a handful of websites that compares the PS4 and the One directly side by side, and they're virtually identical. The only thing is the PS4 has more T-flops, whatever the fuck that is, and that's about it. So, you're basically getting the same power, which I think will help the next-gen games truly be next-gen games. Because it's widely known, especially with this generation, cross-platform stuff, developers are kind of lazy. Well, I don't want to say lazy, because I'm sure it's, there's a lot to making a game. But when they make a game for graphics and performance, is going to be across multiple systems, or both systems. Let's just write Wii U out of this conversation for a little bit. I'll get back to it. When it's for both systems, they develop a program for the lowest common denominator because it's easier. I mean, right now, I can't argue it. PS3 just shits on 360 for power. But it doesn't matter if no developers make use of it. And of course, each relative company's individual exclusive title developers, they do. Look at God of War 3. Look at the Killzone. Look at Uncharted. Beautiful game. Look at Gears of War. Look at Halo 4. I don't think any of us thought Halo 4 could be as pretty as it was. Like, I was truly impressed with that. So, those are the ones that really use the assets of the system. But anything else that's cross-platform, the developers are going to program for the lowest common denominator. And it might offhand look better on PS3 because, Blu-ray can put out slightly better visual quality. But, Xbox One has a Blu-ray drive. So there's that. And, tech specs are almost identical. So there's that. So I think that's good in a way that a lot of our cross-platform games, it'll finally take that step up. Because there won't be one system that's slightly less powerful or significantly less powerful in graphics, and that's what they program it for, and then just kind of slightly polish it up and port it to everything else. Yeah, the Wii U. It's kind of out of this conversation. I'll give it credit. It's kind of one of those things, every system, it goes back to they know they can get away with it sort of thing. In the day, no matter what dumb, quote-unquote, gimmick controller or whatever thing they come up with for the system, Nintendo has those names of Mario, Zelda, Metroid, Smash, so people will buy into it for that. And the same thing goes for the Sony stuff. You got your God of War, the Uncharted, the other Sony exclusives. People will buy into it for that. Same with Microsoft, Halo, blah, blah. It's what you want. And like I said, me personally, I went to that press conference like there's not much they're going to say where I'll be like, fuck that. Nah. I mean, and still, in retrospect, I can't think of anything they would have said. So, I mean, that's where it's at. Me personally, I'm perfectly comfortable buying an Xbox One or getting one over a PS4 merely because I just prefer Microsoft's games. I've never really enjoyed Sony's controller. Let's face it, they haven't changed it since their first disc-based system. So, but if you like it, that's what you like. So that's what you're gonna buy. That's the point of this video. People buy what they're gonna like. So if you're arguing with a hardcore Sony fan, it's pointless. So, yeah, just stop all the fucking bickering. If you're gonna buy it. Be happy. Blah. If you're not, don't. It's your money. Yeah. So yeah. That's my opinion. That's where I stand on it. Let me know what you think or thought about the press conference or all the bells and whistles in the comments below. Of course, as always, appreciate any likes and all that stuff. But yeah, so that's pretty much this one. I was impressed. I can't wait for E3 to see more. I do wish we would have got a price and an official release date other than the end of this year. You can kind of maybe guess November-ish because of Call of Duty Ghosts, because apparently it's straight next gen, and GameStop has it for October. But yeah, like I said, there's a handful of things you can nitpick and pull apart, and you can do that on any system. But at the end of the day, it's what you as a consumer are willing to do. And I think a lot of things people will nitpick about the Xbox One or even Xbox 360, Xbox 360 owners are perfectly comfortable doing. So it's kind of not really a gripe. So until next time, take it easy.